Hello everyone. In this video lecture, we're going to be talking about Act 4, Scene 1 of The Tempest, the penultimate act of this play, and also the penultimate act of Shakespeare's career, because after this, there is only one last curtain for Shakespeare. The Tempest is the final play of his career, and this means that Act 4 of The Tempest is the second to last act. Now, in this act, Prospero performs a grand show of his art. He actually stages a play within the play, a very specific kind of play, by conjuring various spirits from the island using his magical art, directing them, organizing them, and asking them to put on a performance through which he blesses the ensuing marriage between Ferdinand and Miranda. Now, there's a great deal going on here with respect to both Prospero and Shakespeare. Now, we learn a tremendous amount regarding Prospero's intentions, his motivations, his desire, and his conflicting desires. Remember that we've said that this play is about staging the generative unification of contrasts. We have harshness and tenderness, humanity and animality, mercy, compassion, and grace and revenge, the lust for vengeance and anger. All of these things are being put into conversation in Shakespeare's last great exploration of the human condition, and also an exploration of his status as an author and an artist, a playwright who is about to quit the stage for the final time, who's about to take his last bow. In Act 4, Prospero is going to perform, let's say, his second to last great work of his art, his second to last play. What we're going to do is take a look at the introductory section of this act, or Act 4, Scene 1, to discuss the way in which Prospero frames this act, what we learn about him and his capacity for mercy and his desires, his ultimate objectives. And from there, we'll turn to some background information regarding the kind of play that Prospero is performing, his specific intentions in the presentation of this particular kind of play, known as a masque or a court masque. Act 4, Scene 1 begins with Prospero asserting to Ferdinand that he is going to reward him for the faithful service that Ferdinand has executed on this island. Prospero, if I have too austerely punished you, your compensation makes amends. If I have punished you too harshly, my compensation makes amends. Now already, we're thrown into this very strange assertion by Prospero. He's asserting that Ferdinand has done something that is worthy of punishment, and yet Ferdinand has done no wrong. So we see that in Prospero, there's a conflicted understanding or the application of an incorrect understanding and worldview onto this situation. He's saying that, Ferdinand, I punished you. Now, he doesn't actually pick up on this idea. We don't understand what he means here, but it's as if Ferdinand has become the proxy for his father's sins. And the exercise, the labor that Prospero has inflicted upon him, reducing him to the status of a servant to go out and labor like Caliban, is a displacement of the anger, the desire for vengeance and justice against the father Alonso onto the son Ferdinand. On the one hand, it is what Prospero asserted to be. Forcing him or forcing Ferdinand to complete these labors is a way of testing his resolve, of assessing whether he is actually truly devoted to Miranda. But at the same time, it's also fulfilling a base desire that Prospero doesn't acknowledge, something underneath the surface that bubbles up to that surface right here in the moment when he uses that term punishment. He has in the back of his mind the desire to punish, the desire for revenge that is not even conscious to him. So if I have too harshly punished you, your compensation now makes amends. For I have given you here a third of mine own life, or that for which I live. So I'm giving you my daughter, and it was the very thing that sustained my life, that allowed me to retain the will to live when I was lost at sea, when I had been cast out and I had lost everything but for this one infant in my hands. I'm giving that to you. Prospero seems almost surprised by the results of, well, this test that he has inflicted on Ferdinand. All thy vexations were but my trials of thy love, and thou hast strangely stood the test. Again, that rings only partially true. It is because he loves his daughter. He loves his daughter more than anything else. She's all that he has left in the world, and she is all that he has left of the departed wife. And yet, he's still referring to this as punishment. Here afore heaven I ratify this my rich gift. O Ferdinand, do not smile at me that I boast of her, for thou shalt find that she will outstrip all praise, and make it halt behind her. So praise itself is so slow it can't catch up to her. No praise is fit for her. Ferdinand, I do believe it against an oracle. Prospero, and then as my gift, and thine own acquisition. Worthily purchased, take my daughter. Now, Prospero is giving his daughter over to Ferdinand. And of course, this is what Miranda wants. If Miranda was repulsed by Ferdinand, I think that Prospero would have a very different perspective on these events, and he would not go through with this. But he sees the genuineness of Miranda's love for Ferdinand, the way she desires this relationship, and he's actually had to hold her back to make sure that her inexperience and Ferdinand's comparative, well, worldliness and world wisdom does not result in anything untoward happening. And he is well aware of Ferdinand's, let's say, sexual experience. As he says here, if thou dost break her virgin knot before all sanctimonious ceremonies may with full and holy rite be ministered, no sweet aspersion shall the heavens let fall to make this contract grow. But barren hate, sour-eyed disdain, and discord shall bestrew the union of your bed with weeds so loathly that you shall hate it both. Therefore take heed, Hymen's lamps shall light you. So Hymen is this god of fertility and marriage, and one of the beings that blesses a sort of proper, sanctified union between man and woman in this cultural context, or at least in the ancient Greek context to which Shakespeare and Prospero are both alluding here. So what we have here is Prospero warning Ferdinand, and there's a subtext to what's going on. On the surface, he's just saying, do not have sexual relations with my daughter until you're married. But he makes this assertion because he recognizes that Ferdinand could very easily prove an unfaithful and almost sexually rapacious suitor for his daughter. It's possible that Ferdinand is very much like his father, and the tests to which he's already been subjected have not actually yielded accurate results. Ferdinand might be, well, an abuser. They know very little about him at this point, and he is still being tested. He's still being judged. So remember not to engage in sexual relations with my daughter, because I know you're experienced and you could very easily take advantage of her inexperience. So be aware that I am aware of what you are capable of, and make sure that, well, you have actually entered into this binding contract whereby you promise to care for her and to secure her, keep her safe throughout your lives. If you don't, then all these curses that I promise you will fall upon you. And he offers this elaborate metaphor of the garden to either bless Ferdinand and their marriage, if they actually wait until marriage to consummate their relationship, and curses that will fall on him if he takes advantage of Miranda's inexperience. Ferdinand assures him, as I hope for quiet days, fair issue, and long life, with such love as 'tis now, the murkiest den, the most opportune place, the strongest suggestion, or worser genius, shall never melt mine honour into lust, or take away the edge of that day's celebration, when I think or Phoebus' steads are foundered, or night kept chained below. So this is a complex series of allusions and metaphors, but what Ferdinand is essentially saying is that I recognize the value of your daughter, and I would not allow my own animalistic passions to compromise the sanctified culmination of a relationship in marriage and all the fruits that would follow after it. And Prospero says, fairly spoken. Sit then and talk with her. She is thine own. Now, Prospero calls upon Ariel and begins to orchestrate or to arrange a massive demonstration of his art, a massive demonstration of his skill as essentially the playwright of this very play, the character and the person who is orchestrating all things, calling upon actors to fill their roles, instituting or orchestrating costume changes, altering scenes, going back to his book, which is, again, connected directly with his art, his magic, which is meta-theatrical. Right? Prospero again reveals himself to be this kind of meta-theatrical playwright analog. The character in the story who acts like the playwright, who acts like the person who is writing the play in the way in which he speaks and the way in which he directs events on his island using his art or his magic. So he orders Ariel to go away, change costumes, and bring in a rabble of spirits that can then perform a massive ceremony, a massive kind of play within the play for Ferdinand and Miranda to bless their union. Here, we see a different kind of interaction between Prospero and Ariel. Although their relationship is that of a master and a servant who is bound to Prospero by the debt that he owes to him and that he is still repaying, Prospero, interacting with Ariel alone, out of the sight of any of the other characters, still treats him with a kind of tenderness. He cares for Ariel. Dearly, my delicate Ariel, do not approach till thou hearest me call. And after that performance, He actually responds positively again to Ariel, blessing him for the performance that he has put on. Prospero, though, is still fixated on the animalistic concerns inside Ferdinand. And it seems strange that Prospero should be so insistent, right? So he turns to Ferdinand and says, "Look thou be true, do not give dalliance too much the rein. The strong oaths are straw to the fire of the blood. Be more abstemious, or else good knight your vow. Be very careful, you could very easily break the vow that you've made to me over and again." Prospero seems strangely insistent that the passions of the blood or the animalistic desires inside Ferdinand could easily overwhelm all of his best intentions and thus destroy the relationship that he has with Miranda and actually, well, abuse her and take advantage of her. On the one hand, this is a result of Prospero's desire to protect his daughter. There's something else going on here, and it's something we'll discuss in the next short video lecture where we begin to introduce the court mask. And we'll build on this idea of Prospero's fears and concerns regarding Ferdinand and what has triggered them when we move into our class, our interactive class, later on in this week. For now, conclude this video and then move on to the next video lecture in which I will be discussing the court mask and developing some of the ideas in the next part of Act 4, Scene 1.